Just recently, my girlfriend falls asleep next to me, and suddenly she goes, "Did you just ask me if I was sleeping?" I said, "No." She didn't believe me at first because the voice she had heard, mine, had been so clear that she thought I was putting her on. I do play tricks, but I really didn't say anything. I knew what she had experienced, and that clued me in that I should be doing this video. I've had experiences like this, and maybe so did you. I've heard my name clearly being called right next to my ear just as I was falling asleep. This happened twice in my life. Both times, absolutely no one there. But things can get worse, much, much worse. You wake up in the middle of the night and you hear strange noises, have the feeling that someone is in the room. You may see strange shapes or a dark shadow. Something may even be standing over you now or on your chest. You're really scared, and for the life of you, you can't move, which makes it worse. Now, if you were to go see a psychiatrist or a psychologist, there's a really good explanation for this. You'll be told you've just experienced sleep paralysis. Various shadows and creatures, including a man-like cat, was actually reported by Italian researchers studying sleep paralysis. Now, it gets a lot stranger, because some of these creatures can be harmful. I'll come back to their findings, so stay put. Now, creatures have been seen and heard for a long time throughout history. When I ask my students how many of them have experienced some type of sleep paralysis, about a third of them raise their hands. The paralysis is very common, even if not everyone sees things, and it's an easy explanation for odd experiences people have. Yet, I'm going to tell you about cases that do not fit the sleep paralysis explanation. But before I do that, here's the way it is typically explained. As you enter a dream state, your body is paralyzed. This is how your brain prevents you from acting out your dreams. Otherwise, you'd hurt yourself or someone else. There is in fact a disorder called REM sleep disorder, in which people do act out their dreams and can hurt themselves or someone else. But for the average individual, if you wake up prematurely from a dream, your body may still be paralyzed for a short while, and the stuff of your dreams may spill out onto reality. So you're essentially having hallucinations, and you can't move. And it's frightening. But some cases are much harder to explain. Some people say they're being abducted in the middle of the night by little beings that entered their bedrooms. They're having their eggs and sperm harvested on the ship, and after the nightmare ends, put back into their bedroom. According to a nationwide survey conducted in 1990, I know this was a while back, this phenomenon, known as an alien abduction, is estimated to happen to 340 people every single day in the United States alone. That's millions worldwide every year. And I'm here to tell you, this is not always sleep paralysis. It cannot be. Keep watching. Harvard researchers Susan Clancy and Richard McNally, along with others, have made a case for sleep paralysis being the explanation for alien abductions. And sure enough, the explanation seems to fit perfectly at first. One of the things that people notice when they're being abducted is that they can't move. That's the sleep paralysis part. They see creatures in the bedroom, hallucinations from their dream state. They float off the bed. The feeling of floating or falling can be a common experience as you fall asleep. They're frightened. Of course they are. If you see creatures and you can't fight them off because you can't move, you would be. Gary Nolan, a Nobel Prize nominee biologist at Stanford University, saw little beings that would visit him at night when he was young. And he's not afraid to reveal this. And it's pretty much a guarantee that he knows what sleep paralysis is. Yet for him, the experience was absolutely real. Note that he also saw a UFO floating right above him when he was delivering the paper as a young boy. Could these events be related? Who knows? The alien abduction phenomenon is not, as some psychologists have proposed, fully explained by sleep paralysis, and here's why. First of all, sleep paralysis requires that you are sleeping. One of the earliest and widely publicized cases is that of Betty and Barney Hill in 1961. Both recounted being taken aboard a ship by creatures while driving home, and things were done to them. Did Barney, the driver, fall asleep at the wheel Then Betty also fell asleep and both had the very same sleep paralysis dream experience? How so? Here's a recording of Barney recounting his experience under hypnosis. I warn you, if you haven't heard it before, it's disturbing.
This creature is telling me something. What did he tell you? To keep my eyes closed. Don't open them. I've never seen his eyes before. My God, give me strength. All right. Pull it down. Run! Holding it up and down and run! God! If there's a God, give me strength. I gotta get away.
Does that sound like he was remembering hallucinations as he was falling asleep or waking up? Travis Walton. Travis Walton is almost a household name in the history of alien abductions. He was taken on board a UFO in 1975 in the middle of a forest, fully awake, as witnessed by 6 of his friends who eventually passed a lie detector test. I'm not saying these tests are 100% accurate. They are not. But still, this formed the basis for the movie Fire in the Sky, a Hollywood production that Travis himself was not happy with because the movie distorted the facts. If you want Travis's version of the incident, I link to it below. His story has never changed. Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker reported being taken on board a ship against their will in 1973 while fishing near Pascagoula in Mississippi. These odd creatures just drifted out of a UFO and took them. What's extraordinary in their report is that they were secretly taped by local law enforcement while they were alone in an interrogation room to see if they were lying. The 2 men say this to each other. They are acting as though something did in fact happen to them, and it was terrifying. At a minimum, they believe they were abducted. Once again, did they both fall asleep while fishing and had sleep paralysis and the exact same odd experience at the same time? To this day, Calvin Parker is still disturbed by what happened to him several decades earlier. Other than the previous 3 incidents, there are many others involving multiple people at once or independent witnesses. There were 4 campers who witnessed the same strange light during what is known as the Allagash Abductions in 1976 in the state of Maine. All 4 men distinctly recalled seeing what can only be described as a UFO. What's really strange is that this object actually responded to them when they flashed their flashlight. And then the nightmares began. 2 of them, who were brothers, reported the exact same event under hypnosis, and all 4 passed a lie detector test with flying colors. What did the man recall? Being taken on a ship by alien-looking beings that experimented on them. While hypnosis can be rightfully argued to be unreliable in retrieving memories, it is unlikely that 2 people would recount the exact same experience. Bud Hopkins, a well-known hypnotist specializing in alien abductions, reported a woman's abduction during which people on a Brooklyn Bridge in Manhattan witnessed a UFO lifting the woman out of a 12th floor apartment. All of them understandably horrified. John E. Mack, a Harvard psychiatrist, interviewed over 60 kids who, during what is known as the Zimbabwe Incident, reported creatures that landed on school playground. While they were not abducted, he came to the conclusion that they were telling the truth. These creatures were very real to them. I have a full video on that I link to at the end of this one. Many people who believe they have been abducted by non-human beings suffer from physical ailments or psychological disturbances. This man, for example, after seeing a UFO, lost half his body weight after he witnessed beings that looked like your stereotypical aliens experimenting on him, to the point of removing the top of his skull and exposing his brain. Was this simply a horrible nightmare? Research shows that abductees who recall being kidnapped by aliens show higher scores for post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD and dissociation. This is exactly what you would expect from someone who had experienced a real traumatic event, such as experiencing war or being sexually assaulted. Interestingly, these same individuals score lower on suggestibility, meaning that they had better critical thinking skills and were less likely to accept ideas or opinions of others. In other words, they were not just gullible or prone to fantasies. But there is more shocking evidence for alien abductions. Strange objects have been removed from people who recall being abducted or have seen a UFO. The late Dr. Roger Leir, a physician from Thousand Oaks, California, found many of these implants that were subjected to scientific analysis. He claimed that the body should have rejected these foreign bodies, but instead were encapsulated by living tissue, seemed to fight being retrieved, and displayed strange radio emissions. Many so-called abductees also displayed strange marks on their bodies that they did not have before the abductions. Now, what about the Catman creature that I referred to at the beginning of this video? Turns out that researchers in Italy have documented people seeing odd supernatural beings during the sleep paralysis known as the pandafecce. The strange cat-like human figure is just one of them. Now, usually, the things that go bump in the night don't hurt you. They just scare you. But in this case, most of the subjects studied in this research believe they could literally die from the experience. Now, here's the really interesting thing. Some of these individuals remembered being bitten by the creatures that they saw. And they reported that that bite left a mark. It could be psychosomatic, meaning that the belief that you are bitten might itself create that mark. There's some evidence that during hypnosis, people can be made to believe that they are being burned, and they develop a blister in that area. But these studies have been criticized, and their conclusions are still controversial. Maybe these individuals simply hurt themselves as they reacted to seeing these creatures. But remember, during sleep paralysis, you cannot move. The bottom line is this. Do we have a yet undocumented psychological phenomenon? Or are alien abductions real? Either way, the scientific community, by and large, is ignoring reports that keep coming in and that defy current explanations, and whether psychological in nature or real, demand our attention. Sleep well, and if you can, ignore any strange sounds you may hear as you go to sleep tonight. You'll probably wake up in the morning just fine. Maybe.